The galaxy sent its deadliest fleet to destroy Earth, thinking victory was certain. But what happened next shocked every civilization in the stars. Witness humanity's rise and the one-minute battle that changed the galaxy forever. Subscribe now to follow the full story. The Galactic Dominion had always believed it was the strongest power in the universe, a force no one could challenge. And for centuries, they had heard strange rumors about a small blue planet called Earth. Stories whispered by travelers and traders who claimed humans were different, dangerous, and capable of unimaginable things when pushed to the edge. But the Dominion never took these stories seriously. They thought humans were just another young species trying to appear stronger than they really were. So when a small border conflict escalated and the Dominion needed to send a message of absolute power, they decided Earth would be the perfect target for a public demonstration. Inside the grand war chamber of the Dominion capital, commanders sat around a massive glowing table made of crystal and energy, each showing the possible attack routes toward Earth. The atmosphere in the room was calm, almost casual, as if they were planning a routine patrol instead of a planet-destroying strike. The Supreme Commander, a tall figure with scaled armor and cold yellow eyes, tapped his claw against the table and announced the decision with complete confidence. He declared that Earth must be struck immediately, quickly, and without hesitation. His officers obeyed without question, but a few exchanged uneasy glances. They remembered stories from older generations. Stories that said humans fought like creatures who refused to die even when they should have. Legends that described human soldiers who kept moving long after others would have surrendered. But these were just whispers, old tales from a time before the Dominion became powerful, and no one dared to challenge the Supreme Commander's order. Within hours, the Dominion Armada, one of the largest fleets ever assembled, was prepared for launch. Thousands of warships lined up in perfect formation, metallic wings stretching across space like a deadly storm about to fall upon a small world. Engineers fueled their engines, pilots checked their weapons, and commanders sent final messages to their families. Many of them boasting about how easy this mission would be. They expected to return as heroes, celebrated for crushing a planet that supposedly dared to stand against the Dominion. Before departure, a last transmission arrived from a small trade vessel on the outer rim. The voice of an alien merchant crackled through the speakers, warning them to cancel the attack. He claimed Earth was not what it appeared to be. He pleaded for them to stay away, saying he had once seen a human outpost defend itself with technology no one could understand. But the Supreme Commander laughed at the message and ordered communication officers to delete it from all records. He told his fleet that fear was for weak civilizations, not for the Dominion. As the Armada prepared to jump into hyperspace, younger officers felt a strange tension building in their chests. Many of them had never heard warnings repeated so many times about a single planet. Some pulled up archived files about human conflicts and discovered something unsettling. Every time humans had faced extinction in their history, they had survived through strategies that made no logical sense, almost as if their instinct to protect their home was stronger than any rational behavior. Still, none of them dared to report their concerns, because questioning an order was considered a crime in the Dominion. When the final launch command echoed through the fleet, thousands of engines burned bright, shaking the dark vacuum of space. The Armada moved as one massive beast, confident, unstoppable, and eager to prove its dominance once more. Yet hidden within that confidence was a small spark of fear, a fear no one admitted aloud, the fear that maybe the stories were not just stories. As the warships vanished into hyperspace, the Dominion celebrated. Their leaders believed this mission would be the easiest victory in their history. They imagined Earth crumbling within minutes, broadcasting the Dominion's power to every corner of the galaxy. They expected the galaxy to bow before them after witnessing Earth's fall. But what they did not know was that this simple order, given so casually, would become the biggest mistake the Dominion had ever made. Because the moment they targeted Earth, they had unknowingly triggered a chain of events that would change the fate of the entire galaxy forever. And the Dominion commanders, so confident and proud, were about to learn that underestimating humans was the most dangerous decision any empire could make. For many years, the galaxy believed Earth was a quiet and harmless place, a world full of oceans, forests, and cities, but lacking the power that older civilizations possessed. And because of this belief, no one paid attention to what humans were truly building beneath their surface. Yet Earth had learned long ago that the galaxy was not a safe place. They knew that one day someone might come to conquer them, so they prepared in silence, far away from the eyes of every spy and every curious visitor. Deep under the mountains, deserts, and oceans, hidden bases worked nonstop. These bases were not just military bunkers, but massive underground cities filled with scientists, engineers, soldiers, and advanced artificial intelligence systems. Every person working there had only one goal: to ensure that if the day ever came when Earth was attacked, humanity would not be destroyed without fighting back. Above the ground, life looked normal. People went to work, children went to school, and governments talked about peace. But below the surface, an entirely different world existed, a world where Earth's most brilliant minds designed machines that no alien could imagine. One of Earth's secret projects was the Defense Ring, a system buried inside the planet's crust, stretching thousands of kilometers around the globe. It was built using materials so strong that even the hottest plasma weapons could not break them. When activated, the defense ring could create an invisible shield around Earth, a shield capable of destroying any incoming threat before it got close. This technology was so advanced that not even the oldest empires in the galaxy had anything similar, and Earth kept it a secret from everyone, including their allies. Alongside the defense ring, Earth had another hidden weapon: a network of anti-gravity cannons disguised as parts of the natural landscape. Some were built inside mountains, others under deep oceans, and some even floated in the sky using cloaking technology. These cannons could fire beams faster than light, beams strong enough to cut through entire warships in a single hit. The galaxy thought Earth barely had decent spacecraft. But the truth was that humans had been testing these weapons for decades without letting anyone know. They made sure every test was done in uncharted zones or hidden dimensions created by their own technology. Another secret Earth kept was their AI Defense Command, a superintelligent system known only as Helios. Helios was not a simple computer. It was a thinking machine designed to understand war better than any general. It could predict enemy tactics, react faster than any living soldier, and control thousands of weapons at once. Helios stayed asleep most of the time, waiting quietly in its chamber miles beneath the ground. But it was always ready to wake up the moment something threatened Earth. Every time the system detected unusual movement in space, it would prepare silently, gathering information, running calculations, and updating defense patterns without making a sound. Above ground, nations pretended to argue with each other, but secretly, they all worked together on one thing: Earth's survival. They shared technology, research, and resources because they knew that in the face of a galactic threat, humanity could not remain divided. Even ordinary people who knew nothing about these secret preparations played a role. Their technological progress, their creativity, and their courage inspired the scientists and engineers underground to push their limits every day. Humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons, but its spirit, a spirit that refused to die. When the Dominion Armada crossed into the solar system, alarms in Earth's hidden bases activated automatically. No announcement was made publicly. No panic was created on the surface. Instead, underground corridors lit up with red lights as Helios opened its virtual eyes for the first time in years. In a fraction of a second, it analyzed the size of the approaching fleet, identified their weapon types, calculated possible attack routes, and prepared Earth's counterstrike plans down to the smallest detail. Meanwhile, scientists and soldiers took their positions, watching the screens with calm faces. They had trained for this moment all their lives. They knew the galaxy thought Earth was weak, and that misunderstanding was their greatest weapon. They understood that the Dominion expected Earth to beg for mercy or try to negotiate, but humanity had already made its decision long ago. If anyone tried to destroy their home, Earth would fight back with everything it had. While the alien armada moved closer, the planet remained silent from the outside. No ships were launched, no warnings were sent, no defensive satellites were activated publicly. To the Dominion, it looked like Earth did not even know they were coming. But beneath the surface, the truth was entirely different. Earth was not afraid. Earth was ready. And humanity was about to show the galaxy that silence did not mean weakness. It meant preparation, patience, and a storm waiting to be unleashed. The Dominion Armada entered the solar system with the confidence of a predator stepping into a quiet forest. Thousands of warships gliding through the darkness like a metal tide, stretching from one end of space to the other. Their engines hummed with power, their weapons charged and ready, and their commanders believed this mission would be over before anyone on Earth even realized what was happening. But as they approached the blue planet, a strange silence greeted them, a silence that made even the most experienced captains uneasy. From the bridge of the flagship, Commander Zalvor stared at Earth through a wide observation window. He expected to see human warships scrambling, satellites firing defensive beams, or at least some sign that the planet was preparing for battle. Instead, Earth looked peaceful, calm, and strangely quiet. The cities below sparkled with lights, the oceans reflected the sun, and not a single human craft moved to intercept the incoming fleet. This silence confused him, but he dismissed the feeling, telling himself humans were too primitive to defend themselves properly. Still, across the Armada, whispers spread among the crew. Many of the younger officers felt something was wrong. They had fought dozens of battles before, and every time they approached a target planet, alarms rang, weapons fired, and enemy ships rushed to defend their home. But here, there was nothing, no signals, no warnings, no fleet rising to challenge them. It was as if Earth was asleep or completely unaware that thousands of alien warships were hovering above them. The calmness felt unnatural, almost threatening, but no one dared speak their fears aloud. Inside the communications room, technicians scanned the area over and over, trying to detect any hidden traps or signals. At one point, an officer hesitated and called out that something felt off. He said he could sense faint energy fluctuations around Earth. But the readings were so weak and irregular that his supervisor dismissed them as sensor errors. After all, the Dominion spies had reported that Earth's technology was far behind theirs, so no one believed humans could hide anything powerful. But the officer's instincts kept whispering that something enormous was lurking just beneath the planet's surface. On several ships, older veterans told quiet stories to calm the nervous recruits. They mentioned tales they had once heard in distant trading posts. Stories about humans doing impossible things, defeating armies with smaller forces, and surviving catastrophes that should have wiped them out. The recruits listened with widening eyes, but the veterans laughed afterward and said these were just myths, exaggerations told by superstitious travelers. Yet even they could not shake the feeling that something about Earth felt different. As the Armada drifted into position, preparing for the first strike, Earth still showed no reaction. This made the Dominion commanders more confident. They interpreted the silence as fear, thinking humans were too overwhelmed to respond. They believed this would be the easiest conquest in their history. Some officers even started recording personal messages to brag about how quickly they would defeat Earth, believing they would return home as heroes. But deep inside every ship, hidden behind the bravado and confidence, was a growing tension, a quiet sense that the mission was too easy, too quiet, too perfect. And experienced soldiers knew that battles which seemed too easy often hid the deadliest surprises. Some officers reviewed their tactical plans one more time. Others tightened their grip on their chairs, and a few simply stared at Earth, unable to understand why the planet made their hearts beat faster. The flagship sensors continued scanning the area, and once again, they detected a faint pulse of energy coming from deep below the planet's crust. This time, the reading lasted only a fraction of a second before vanishing. The technicians looked at each other, unsure whether they should report it. But before they could decide, the Supreme Commander ordered the fleet to prepare for the first attack wave. He wanted to strike immediately, before humans could react, unaware that Earth was already watching them with unblinking eyes. As countdown timers lit up across every warship, the Dominion believed they were seconds away from victory. They imagined Earth as helpless prey waiting to be crushed, not knowing that in the silence below the planet's surface, hidden machines were waking up. Analyzing every ship, every weapon, every movement of the Armada with perfect precision. But the aliens had no idea they were standing at the edge of a trap they could not escape. And in this calm before the storm, the Dominion Armada remained blind to the danger gathering beneath the peaceful blue planet, waiting for the moment to strike back. The Dominion fleet stood ready, thousands of warships floating above Earth like dark shadows in the sky. Every ship had weapons charged, targeting systems locked, and commanders confident that the first strike would end everything. On the flagship, a deep buzz filled the air as the main plasma cannons powered up, glowing brighter and brighter until the entire bridge was bathed in a deadly blue light. Commander Zalvor raised his arm and gave the order to fire, believing this moment would mark the beginning of Earth's destruction. The first barrage shot out like streaks of burning light, dozens of superheated plasma spheres racing toward Earth with incredible speed. The Dominion officers watched proudly, imagining the planet breaking apart under the impact. They talked excitedly, already discussing how long it would take to finish the remaining survivors. No one in the Armada expected any resistance. Their faces showed confidence, even boredom, as if they were watching a routine training exercise. But on Earth, the situation was completely different. Deep underground, as soon as the plasma shots entered the upper atmosphere, alarms echoed through enormous underground chambers. The defense ring, a massive network buried beneath Earth's crust, woke up instantly. Its hidden layers lit up one by one like glowing veins wrapping around the planet. Helios, the AI commander, analyzed the incoming attack in a fraction of a second and activated the global shield system without hesitation. Above the atmosphere, something extraordinary happened. The plasma weapons, which were powerful enough to melt an entire city on impact, suddenly slowed, stretched, and disappeared into thin air. It was as if they had been swallowed by an invisible force. The Dominion fleet was silent for a moment, unsure what they had just seen. Commanders checked their sensors, believing this must be some kind of visual error. They could not understand how their strongest weapons simply vanished. Inside the flagship, technicians frantically recalibrated their scanners, but every reading showed the same impossible result. The shots never reached Earth. They were neutralized before they traveled even halfway. Some younger officers whispered in fear that humans might have anti-plasma technology, but the commanders rejected the idea. They said no primitive world could develop something so advanced. They insisted the weapons must have malfunctioned, even though deep down they knew something was terribly wrong. The Dominion prepared a second strike, this time stronger, faster, and more concentrated. Dozens of ships fired together, creating a rain of glowing plasma that filled the sky. The attack looked like a bright storm rushing toward Earth. The commanders believed that no defense could withstand such overwhelming power. They thought the first attempt was simply a technical glitch. But they were wrong, so very wrong, because Earth's shield system strengthened instantly, rising like an invisible wall, smooth, silent, and unstoppable. The moment the second volley touched the invisible shield, it collapsed in on itself, folding and dissolving like dust in the wind. Every ship in the Dominion fleet felt the shock as their weapons failed again, this time with even clearer readings. The plasma was being neutralized, absorbed, and erased by a technology they did not recognize. Technicians shouted warnings, officers demanded explanations, but no one had any answers. The fleet, once confident and proud, suddenly felt the first true wave of fear. Commander Zalvor clenched his fists, unable to understand what he was witnessing. He had fought countless battles, conquered dozens of worlds, and never once had he seen his weapons fail so completely. He tried to calm his officers, telling them Earth must be using experimental shielding that would eventually break, but his voice lacked certainty. For the first time in his life, he sounded unsure, and his crew could hear it. Across the fleet, nervous whispers spread like wildfire. The youngest soldiers stared at Earth with wide eyes, wondering how a planet that looked so peaceful could hide technology powerful enough to stop a Dominion strike. The veterans felt a cold shiver run down their spines, remembering those old stories they once laughed at, stories about humans being unpredictable, unstoppable, and terrifying when threatened. On Earth, Helios monitored everything with cold precision, calculating the fleet's next moves, preparing countermeasures, and gathering data from every warship in orbit. In the hidden bases, scientists and soldiers stood silently, watching the enemy attack fail again and again. They felt no fear, only focus, because they knew this battle was far from over. Meanwhile, in the sky above Earth, the Dominion Armada began to understand a truth they never expected. Their first attack, meant to be decisive, powerful, and devastating, had been completely erased, and as they stared at the silent planet below, they realized something terrifying. Earth was not weak, Earth was not primitive, Earth was ready, and the Dominion had just awakened a force they did not understand and could not hope to control. The Dominion Armada had never experienced fear like this before. One moment, they believed they were the most powerful force in the galaxy, and the next moment, their strongest weapons were vanishing before they even touched Earth. Commanders tried to tell themselves it was only a minor setback, a temporary issue they could overcome with a stronger attack. But deep inside, everyone on those ships felt a cold truth settling in their hearts. This battle was not going the way they expected. On the flagship bridge, Commander Zalvor barked orders, demanding a full strike formation. He wanted every ship to fire at once, every cannon, every missile, every plasma beam. He believed that if they overwhelmed Earth with sheer volume, they might succeed. Officers rushed to follow the command, but their hands trembled. Their eyes kept drifting toward the planet below. A planet that had done nothing yet still felt like a silent predator watching its prey struggle. Across the Armada, thousands of weapon systems activated, glowing with intense power. Engines roared, targeting computers locked onto key points across Earth. And the Dominion fleet prepared to unleash the biggest attack they had ever launched on a single world. They believed no defense system, no matter how advanced, could survive a strike of this magnitude. But while the Dominion prepared, Earth was already far ahead, deep underground. Helios had finished calculating every ship's position, every weapon charge, every shield frequency. The AI processed the data faster than any living mind could imagine, and with perfect calmness, it activated Earth's counterstrike protocol. Above the atmosphere, cloaked arrays began to unseal themselves. Anti-gravity cannons rose from hidden chambers under oceans, mountains, and deserts. And the invisible defense ring shifted into full offensive mode. The Dominion fired the first wave of the massive attack. A storm of burning plasma, explosive charges, and energy beams flew toward Earth with terrifying brightness. The sky lit up like a supernova exploding. Soldiers in the fleet cheered, believing they had finally broken through. But their cheers died instantly when the entire barrage shattered against Earth's invisible shield, not slowing, not weakening. Simply vanishing as if wiped from existence, confusion exploded across every ship. Technicians shouted that they had lost visual confirmation of the weapons. Commanders demanded explanations. But before anyone could understand what happened, Earth moved. The defense ring released its first counterstrike. Beams of concentrated energy shot upward so fast the Dominion sensors could barely track them. The beams sliced through the nearest warships in silence. The ships did not explode. They simply broke apart, falling into pieces before their crews even realized they had been hit. Panic erupted. Alarms blared across the Armada. Some ships tried to retreat. Others tried to maneuver. But Earth's attack was too fast, too accurate, too deadly. Helios had already calculated the most efficient route to erase the entire fleet. Every beam it fired had a target. Every strike was precise. Ships that tried to escape found themselves trapped as Earth's cloaked orbital railguns revealed themselves, firing invisible shots that punched through hulls like paper. Commanders screamed for reinforcements, for shields, for anything. But it was too late. Earth had turned the battle into a one-sided storm. Within seconds, the central Dominion formation collapsed. Massive cruisers split apart. Carriers lost all control as their engines melted. And destroyers burst into fragments of glowing metal. The Armada tried to break formation, but that only made them easier targets. Helios picked them off one by one, calculating every possible escape route and blocking them instantly. Some ships attempted to send distress calls, but Earth's jamming fields silenced them before the signals traveled more than a few meters. Inside the flagship, Commander Zalvor watched in horror as ship after ship disappeared from the battle map, icons blinking out faster than he could count. The bridge fell silent, except for the blaring alarms and the panicked breaths of officers who now understood the truth. They were not fighting a primitive world. They were facing a superpower that had hidden its strength for decades. They had provoked something far beyond their understanding. The final blow came exactly 57 seconds after Earth launched its counterstrike. The flagship trembled as a focused beam pierced through its shields and split the ship in half. Officers were thrown from their stations, emergency lights flashed, and the ship broke apart helplessly, drifting in pieces toward the void. And with that, the last surviving command vessel of the Dominion Armada was gone. The battle that the Dominion believed would last minutes ended in less than one. The galaxy's most feared fleet erased in under a minute, leaving nothing behind but silence. And in that silence, one truth echoed loudly across the stars. Earth was not the prey. Earth was the storm the galaxy had underestimated. And the Dominion had just learned this lesson in the most devastating way possible. The destruction of the Dominion Armada sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Civilizations that had once laughed at Earth now watched in stunned silence. News traveled faster than light as sensor stations and neighboring systems detected the sudden disappearance of thousands of warships. Entire empires paused their normal routines. Traders stopped their commerce. Diplomats halted their negotiations. And even pirate fleets hid in fear. Trying to understand what had just happened, the galaxy had expected a swift victory for the Dominion. But instead, they had witnessed something far beyond comprehension. Planets in the outer systems received fragments of data from the battle, captured by relay satellites and rogue observation drones. Images and telemetry spread like wildfire through public and private channels. Every display showed the same impossible truth. The largest fleet ever assembled, destroyed in under a minute, wiped from existence before it could strike. The reports confused scholars, military analysts, and politicians alike. Nobody could explain how such a small, supposedly primitive world could perform a feat that defied all known science and strategy. The Dominion tried to control the narrative, but it was too late. Their efforts to suppress information failed as leaks appeared everywhere. Systems outside their control began broadcasting fragments of the battle to every corner of the galaxy. Whispers of Earth's secret strength turned into rumors, and rumors became undeniable facts. Species who had never even considered communicating with humans suddenly found themselves reconsidering alliances, trade agreements, and even survival strategies. Leaders across the galaxy convened emergency councils to discuss the implications. Military commanders reviewed their fleets, engineers analyzed their weapons, and scientists debated endlessly about how Earth could develop such powerful technology. Some suggested humans must have ancient alien knowledge. Others insisted they had somehow mastered energy and AI systems beyond anyone's understanding. But all agreed on one terrifying point. Underestimating Earth was a fatal mistake, a mistake they would never repeat. Meanwhile, back on Earth, nothing had changed on the surface. Cities continued their daily routines. People walked, worked, and slept as if nothing had happened. But deep underground, in the command centers and research facilities, scientists and soldiers reviewed the battle's data, checking each calculation, each strike, and each system's performance. They had anticipated the Dominion's attack. But even for them, the speed and efficiency of the fleet's destruction was extraordinary. And it gave them a quiet sense of pride and relief. The leaders of Earth decided to send a single, calm transmission to the galaxy, a message intended not to provoke fear, but to establish a clear truth. Humanity would not be invaded without consequences. The message was short, clear, and precise. We do not seek war, but if attacked, we will end it swiftly. It was broadcast through every major communication channel, reaching billions of listeners across countless systems. And instantly, it became the most watched, recorded, and debated transmission in galactic history. Across the outer systems, reactions varied. Some species were relieved, realizing that Earth's power could stabilize fragile regions of the galaxy and prevent larger wars. Others were terrified, understanding that the humans could have destroyed the Dominion Armada, but chose not to pursue conquest. Merchant fleets and explorers adjusted their routes, avoiding unnecessary conflict near the solar system. and even rival governments started secretly preparing to approach Earth with proposals for cooperation rather than aggression. In the Dominion remnants, surviving officers and civilians were in shock, their entire chain of command destroyed, their fleet annihilated in a single unstoppable strike. Panic and fear replaced confidence. Mutinies broke out on smaller ships, and survivors fled, hiding in distant systems. Knowing they could never return without exposing themselves to total annihilation, the galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and it was clear that Earth had changed the balance of power forever. Even ordinary humans on the surface slowly became aware of what had happened, though most details remained classified. Rumors and censored news created a sense of awe, a mix of curiosity and pride. People began to realize that their species had survived countless threats, not just by luck, but through preparation, intelligence, and determination. They had proven that unity, courage, and ingenuity could stand against even the most overwhelming odds. By the end of the week, the galaxy was buzzing with a single undeniable truth. Earth was no longer a backwater world, no longer a minor player, no longer to be dismissed. The one-minute battle had not only destroyed an armada, but had also rewritten history, demonstrating that humans were unpredictable, powerful, and capable of defending their home in ways no other civilization could imagine. And every empire, every fleet, and every system now faced a choice: respect Earth, ally with Earth, or risk the same fate as the Dominion. After the Dominion Armada was destroyed, the leaders of Earth knew the galaxy would be watching. Every civilization, from the smallest mining colonies to the largest interstellar empires, would be eager to understand what had happened and what it meant for the future. The time had come to send a message, not as a threat, not as a declaration of war, but as a statement of truth, one that would make every species pause and reconsider how they saw humanity. Using every advanced communication network available, from orbiting relay satellites to hidden deep space transmitters, Earth prepared a single, calm, and precise broadcast. The message was designed to be heard clearly across thousands of light years, reaching hundreds of millions of beings. Yet it was simple, clear, and unthreatening. The words chosen were deliberate, meant to show strength without aggression, wisdom without arrogance, and a warning without malice. The transmission began with a brief summary of what had occurred, a factual account of the Dominion fleet's destruction, described in neutral, almost clinical terms, emphasizing that the Armada had been fully operational, highly trained, and overwhelmingly powerful, and yet it had been neutralized with absolute precision in under a minute. This was followed immediately by the statement that would echo across the galaxy: "We do not seek war, but if attacked, we will end it swiftly." The words were simple, but carried the weight of decades of preparation, courage, and intelligence. Within hours, the broadcast was replayed on every major channel, intercepted by spies, listened to by traders, recorded by news networks, and studied by scholars. Every civilization that heard it experienced a mix of awe, fear, and disbelief. Many could not reconcile the idea that humans, a species they had always dismissed as primitive and weak, could have the power to destroy a fleet as massive as the Dominion Armada with such speed and efficiency. Diplomats scrambled to send envoys, governments debated new policies, and military commanders reviewed their own fleets, wondering how to defend against a species they had underestimated for centuries. Some species feared that Earth could have conquered the galaxy if it had chosen to, but they soon realized that humans did not want conquest. They only wanted security. And the calm tone of the message reinforced that point. Humanity had shown restraint, intelligence, and self-control, qualities that earned both respect and caution from others. Back on Earth, leaders monitored the galaxy's response carefully. They understood the importance of projecting strength without provoking unnecessary conflict. They knew that fear alone could trigger retaliation. So every word, every tone, and every decision surrounding the broadcast was deliberate. It demonstrated that humanity was ready to defend itself, but also capable of diplomacy and restraint. The galaxy had learned that humans were not impulsive. They acted with strategy, patience, and precision. In nearby star systems, scholars debated the implications endlessly. Philosophers wrote treatises on humanity's sudden rise to prominence. Historians compared Earth's defense to legendary battles of the past. and journalists called it the most important moment in recorded galactic history. Even ordinary civilians in alien civilizations followed the story, marveling at the idea that a single planet could defend itself so decisively against a powerful empire. The message became a symbol of hope for some and a warning for others. Merchant fleets and trade convoys altered their routes to avoid potential conflict near Earth. Explorers approached cautiously. Governments that had ignored the planet now began sending discreet envoys to establish contact, some seeking alliances, others seeking to understand humanity's technology, while secretive intelligence networks worked overtime to analyze Earth's capabilities, trying to figure out what systems, weapons, and strategies had allowed a relatively small planet to destroy an entire armada. Even within humanity, the message strengthened unity and pride. People realized that their preparation, innovation, and determination had not only protected their home, but had also shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. The 1-minute battle was not just a military victory. It was proof that humans were capable of far more than anyone had ever imagined. A demonstration that patience, intelligence, and courage could overcome overwhelming odds, and that the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The broadcast also served as a subtle invitation, a signal that humanity was ready to engage with the galaxy on its own terms, that they were open to diplomacy, trade, and alliances, but that any threat would be met with the same precision and power displayed against the Dominion. As the message spread, it became clear that Earth had changed the rules of interstellar politics. The 1-minute victory was more than a battle. It was a turning point, establishing humans as a force to be respected, feared, and ultimately reckoned with. By the end of the week, the galaxy understood the full meaning of Earth's broadcast, and every empire, fleet, and civilization knew one undeniable fact. Humans were unpredictable, powerful, and patient, capable of defending their home with overwhelming force, and willing to act decisively if threatened. The calm, clear message had made an impression deeper than any fleet could have achieved, demonstrating that humanity's rise was not accidental, but calculated, disciplined, and unstoppable. After Earth's broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy, the balance of power began to shift in ways no one had predicted. Empires that had once dominated entire sectors paused their expansion plans, merchants reconsidered their routes, and explorers charted new paths. The destruction of the Dominion Armada and humanity's calm warning made everyone understand that Earth was no ordinary planet. It was now a central point in galactic politics, a power to be respected, feared, and approached with caution. In the Dominion's remnants, surviving officers struggled to regroup, their command structure destroyed, ships scattered, and morale shattered. The empire that had once seemed unstoppable now faced chaos within its own ranks. Mutinies and infighting erupted on isolated vessels. Officers who had always relied on fear and intimidation realized that their reputation meant nothing when confronted with a force they could not understand or match. And across the systems that had followed the Dominion, whispers of rebellion began, as smaller factions questioned the leadership's competence and wondered if they should switch allegiance to the new rising power. Other civilizations, once distant observers, now approached Earth carefully, seeking alliances, trade agreements, and protection. Diplomats traveled cautiously to Earth's borders, presenting gifts, information, and offers of cooperation. Some governments sent scientists to study human technology, hoping to learn without provoking hostility, while militaries evaluated their own defenses, realizing that Earth had set a new standard for planetary security, one that required them to rethink every strategy, weapon, and fleet deployment. The galaxy slowly began to recognize the unprecedented restraint humanity had shown. Despite having the ability to annihilate entire fleets and potentially conquer other worlds, Earth's leaders had chosen peace, proving that humans did not crave domination, but valued stability, strength, and preparation. This restraint earned admiration and respect, showing that humans were not just powerful, but wise, capable of using their strength strategically rather than recklessly. A lesson that many civilizations had to learn the hard way. On Earth, life returned to a quiet normalcy on the surface. Cities buzzed with daily activity, families lived their lives, and governments continued their work as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet beneath the surface, the planet remained vigilant. Helios continued monitoring the galaxy, analyzing fleets, weapon developments, and communications. Scientists upgraded the defense systems, and soldiers trained constantly, knowing that while they had won the battle, the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and preparation could never stop. Trade and diplomacy flourished cautiously as species began to see the advantage of forming peaceful relations with humanity. Earth became a hub for technological exchange, cultural interaction, and strategic partnerships. Alliances were created not through fear, but through mutual respect. And even some empires that had once sought to dominate the galaxy reached out, understanding that cooperation with humans was now a necessity for survival. The galaxy was learning to adapt to the presence of a new central power, one that had emerged not through conquest, but through a demonstration of unmatched strength and discipline. Stories of the one-minute battle spread across countless worlds, becoming a legend in both history and education. Historians wrote about it for decades. Analysts studied the tactics and technology involved, and even entertainment industries across multiple species recreated the battle, each retelling reinforcing the lesson that underestimating humanity was fatal. The galaxy collectively understood that Earth had changed the rules forever, setting a new benchmark for what a planet could achieve when its people united, prepared, and determined to survive. Meanwhile, humanity quietly strengthened its influence, showing that power combined with restraint could inspire loyalty and admiration rather than fear and rebellion. Smaller planets and independent systems began requesting guidance, protection, and technological assistance, and many joined in formal alliances under Earth's leadership, seeing humans not as conquerors, but as stabilizers capable of maintaining balance across volatile regions. The one-minute victory had not just destroyed a fleet, it had created a foundation for a new galactic order, one in which humans were central, respected, and unchallenged. As decades passed, Earth's example encouraged other civilizations to rethink their approach to war and diplomacy, understanding that preparation, intelligence, and ethical restraint could achieve more lasting results than aggression and conquest. The galaxy slowly adapted to a new era, one where humans were a central force, a symbol of power paired with wisdom, and a reminder that even a single planet, when united and determined, could influence the fate of the stars. The one-minute battle became a defining moment in history. The legend of humanity's rise was taught to every generation, and the galaxy accepted a new reality. Humans were unpredictable, capable of incredible power, and guided by a strategy that combined patience, intelligence, and morality. The dominions collapsed, the alliances formed, and the respect gained, all demonstrated that Earth had not only survived a direct threat, but had reshaped the future of the galaxy forever. And in doing so, humanity had shown the universe the true meaning of strength tempered with wisdom,